Oscar Mayer, spelled M-A-Y-E-R, created the Oscar Mayer products, not M-E-Y-E-R. The reason for error in this case, I think, is quite simple. The pronunciation of Mayer, according to the company, is like M-I-R-E, as it rhymes with fire. The reason people's memories mistakenly resort to the spelling M-E-Y-E-R is because the word I is built into that way of spelling, which satisfies the pronunciation of the long I sound. This in turn satisfies the congruity of language, since Oscar Mayer is not an example of moderate, incongruent marketing. They use a simpler, unique moniker, such as a full name, during a simpler time of market, relying less on moderate incongruity. As a proper name, its salience lies in context of familiarity. In our hyper-aware state, M-A-Y-E-R is dissonant to the sound of the surname. This leads people in bias to gravitate towards the M-E-Y-E-R spelling. This is essentially reason spelling mistakes exist. As I've said about Chick-fil-A, all businesses do better knowing what trends are current. As a good business practice, the said business would then secure their intellectual property, products, and interests. These days, as with Chick-fil-A, for example, URL also serves as identity for business, and they, as we saw, certainly capitalized to the best of their ability regarding the CHIC error with the redirect. In the old days, it was all about trademark and copyright. So back in the day, Oscar Mayer seems to have had full knowledge that their product name Mayer did have a consensus that misspelled it as M-E-Y-E-R, which we will see in just a moment. How do we know they had knowledge of this? Because to safeguard their products with the misspelled name, because of this creeping human error, in case they were to pick up momentum, Oscar Mayer set up an everlasting corporation in 1968 under the name M-E-Y-E-R. This can be seen here in this official Illinois corporation registration. In addition, there is also a trademark, but the only one of its kind, meaning this is the only official trademark recordation of this incorrect alternate spelling. There are no archival materials that show M-E-Y-E-R ever being used, and they all in fact show the correct spelling. This one-off registration, however, they do in fact keep alive, but only regarding the trademark. Oscar Mayer were well aware of both spellings, obviously, and the information was public domain since 1968. It's not a secret, alternate name from a reality you once knew. Let's see some examples of the human error. There is simultaneous evidence showing the perpetual and subtle confusion in people that occupied the small corners of the mind, showing up as errors. One moment they are spelling it correctly, the next moment inadvertence spells it incorrectly. Much like some of the other examples. Here are just a handful of articles showing these concurrent, commonplace errors. This one is as recent as 2006. Another fairly recent article from 2003 demonstrating the common mistake between the spelling of M-A-Y-E-R and M-E-Y-E-R. Going back to 1987, one sees this convention was just as prevalent. And if you're wondering if this common error happened in the 90s, yes, it did. Yet again, we find ourselves a gem in the archives. This type of evidence is wonderful as another way to illustrate that information is at our mercy. This one goes back to 1981. In a moment of transparency, the newspaper was delivering a small apology to an individual who pointed out that one of the newspaper's last columns about Oscar Mayer had misspelled Mayer with, as you know, an E. He was extremely familiar with the name because his father was a longtime employee with the Mayer Company. Just like any of the other examples, like Chick-fil-A and Jif, to name a couple, showing these simultaneous errors, one should understand the bias mechanism and perceptual error go unnoticed. They are systematically present and they're recursive. You'll see them everywhere, affecting many at any time period. But seemingly there is no issue perceived without hyper-awareness involved. Two variations, in a sense, look the same because bias eventually makes it so as cognitive output. So long as the mind is dealing with something familiar, subtle unexpected incongruity can be equalized. Perhaps, for example, in one moment the journalist, with an acute hyper-awareness, writes off of something official or from notes in front of him with the correct spelling. Then, moments later, in a different section of their article, they are suddenly writing off the cuff, more relaxed as names and facts come from memory with stream of consciousness kicking in, but now met with the filter of bias first. Suddenly errors rise to the surface, however innocuous, since the same bias dominates casual perception every following instance, until hyper-awareness comes to vex. Suddenly things then appear to have changed.